Coming up, the Rabbitohs moonwalk their way into the grand final. The Warrington Wolves choke on a red-iced donut. And all to look back at the Super League playoff action and the NRL Dally M Awards night. Yes, hello, and yes, excuse me. Yes, hello and welcome to the Sideline Chat podcast, the one-stop shop for rugby league. Along with Mark Hendry, I am Connor Marcells, and today we bring you your NRL Grand Final Week and Super League Playoffs debrief, part one. Yes, part one of the Grand Final Week for both sides. Not there yet, but for some of us it is. But before we jump into all of that, we got to take a look back at the NRL Preliminary Finals, and we start off with the South Sydney Rabbitohs downing the Manly Sea Eagles 36-16.
Now, I thought, and I think a lot of people would have thought this game was going to be a lot closer than what it was, but the Rabbitohs absolutely ran away with it.
I predicted it. I was calling the Rabbitohs 1-12 in this margin because I thought Manly were not going to take a backward step at all.
And
no way they would.
And I think I said Rabbitohs to win by one.
So we're both predicting a close encounter, and we were
given the opposite.
Well, I was going to say severely disappointed, but we were right at the same time. So, yeah. But look, this preliminary final could have gone either one of two ways. And I think it comes down to the first half.
Yeah.
The way I see it, South Sydney were about, what were they up? 12-0 at at one point in that game. And then Manly got denied a couple of tries. The first try was they were both Tom Trbojevic, weren't they?
Yes, I know the second. No, Ruben Garrick.
Tom Trbojevic had his hand in both the tries Manly got denied.
Yes. Well, he went to score one, but was overturned. Ruben Garrick was the first one that got denied.
All right, Garrick's try got denied. Is that obstruction to you?
No. So
you think it was a defensive decision made by, if I remember correctly, Adam Reynolds, with the way Schuster, I think, was running his line, and there was no other way.
Oh, I don't know. It's a bit of a hard call. Like, it looked like that Schuster was obstructing Reynolds, because looking at it from the replays and that, it looked like that Reynolds may have gotten a chance to get to Tommy Trbojevic to shut him down. But then on the other hand, it could be Reynolds could have gone another line to try and get to him to avoid Schuster. So it's kind of 50-50.
Well, that was strike one against the Sea Eagles and that. And then later on, Tom Trbojevic, everyone thinks he has scored, but the body language he shows is he lost that ball.
Yeah, he certainly
I
did.
called it straight up. He's lost it. It would be a 20-meter restart for South.
Yeah.
But that first half is what killed Manly. Right there.
It certainly did. And the scoreline could have been a lot different if those two tries were allowed.
Oh, they would have. That would have turned the result on its head. But at the end of the day, 17 errors from the Sea Eagles, 4 penalties, 4 6-agains, never any good. Not to mention a man in the sin bin and another one on report, that being Josh Alloy for that dangerous road tackle.
Yeah. And Manly were just not themselves.
And the completion rates didn't help. 67% from 36 sets in contrast to the Rabbitohs 77 with 48 sets done, but only 37 of those completed.
Yeah. But I don't know what went wrong for Manly, though. I just can't put my finger on what went wrong for them. I'd say it might have been the errors that they made.
Well, error counts one factor, but I think the Rabbitohs' defense, especially defensively in that first half, it was pinpoint. It was perfect. You could not fault the Rabbitohs' defense at all in the first half. Second half, they were only one try in, but the back 10 minutes, I think, will trouble weighing the most.
Yeah,
because we all know what happened. Manly went blindside down the left-hand side, and they used Moses Suli, first with Tom Trbojevic, and then Ruben Garrick to finish it off. But that was only Manly's two real bright sparks in attack all night.
Yeah, it most certainly was. And They needed to be more like that throughout the whole match to make it a closer contest and be edge of your seat stuff. But this game wasn't really edge of your seat stuff, to be quite honest.
I mean, we'd be looking, and of course, we got to talk about that Jackson Paulo try. I mentioned it right as we started. How many times do you see someone trying to moonwalk their way over the try line?
Next to none.
Yeah, I would have thought so. But I tell you what, bloody good entertainment.
Yeah, it certainly was. It added a bit of what did you say?
Spice, flair, just something to get a laugh. Because as well as we say that rugby league is the greatest game of all, it can also provide some of the funniest moments in sport, or that aren't streakers, because it's not really, well, we shouldn't really be tempting streakers, but hey, we got to have a laugh at something on the field.
Well, yes.
This was a chuckle. It's like, oh my God. Just like when you're wrong, you're wrong. And I think maybe they were trying to argue, oh yeah, he had more momentum getting away from Turbo running backwards than if he tried and spun around to run forward again.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the case. Maybe that wasn't. But end of the day, it is what it is. It was a moonwalk over the try line.
Yes, it certainly was. And just to cap off a brilliant night from South Sydney.
This is only, I believe, the second time within the last 10 years that the Rabbitohs have been pushing around the preliminary finals. This is only the second time they've actually won one.
That is true.
2012, lost to Canterbury. 2013, lost to Manly. 2018, lost to the Roosters. 2019, lost to the Raiders. Then last year, lost to Penrith. And here they are. They flogged Manly to oblivion. A little bit of defensive lapses late.
Yeah.
But other than that, hold strong. And Blake Taaffe, I got to say, all the speculation around Adam Reynolds, playing at fullback in only his 7th game at that point. 149 running meters, 2 try assists, 3 tackle breaks. And I think this would be most important if the mind games about Adam Reynolds are false. 4 from 7 goals converted.
Yeah. It's got a good kicking rate on it. Like, I know he missed 3 goals, but
well, it's better than the round 25 result when he only was 1 from 4.
Exactly. And I don't even know when the last time he goal kicked, probably in the New South Wales Cup. So,
well, I don't think he's actually played much knock-on effect Cup. I think others that have, including Dean Hawkins and Lachlan Ilias, because I've been, and this is a work in progress, but I've got tables of goal kicking depth for all the clubs. Not all done at the moment, but we'll be talking about them in a couple of months' time. So I'm just going to keep you all on edge with that one. But yeah, I think when you're going to go up against the sharpshooters, because South Sydney only have one other probably decent goal kicker in their current ranks, and that would probably be Dane Gagai.
Well, yeah,
just on and off Gagai's taking a couple of shots at goal, but the luxury of first Adam Reynolds' longevity and then having Latrell Mitchell as backup, South Sydney have not had to rely on much goal-kicking depth and development up until now.
Exactly.
So this is going to be key for me if in the grand final. But what are they going to face in the grand final? Well, I'm not going to leave you in suspense. We already know the answer of that. At Penrith Panthers down the Melbourne Storm, 10 points to 6. I got to say, what the hell happened to Melbourne?
I honestly do not know. They were off all night. They were not themselves.
What was that?
I honestly do not know. I cannot tell you. How often do you see Melbourne?
I'm gobsmacked. I'm gobsmacked. What, 16 errors, and then they concede 3 penalties. These as well. 2 players on report, and things have gotten a lot worse for the Melbourne Storm in the last week. But why did they save their? They had problems early on. I mean, so did Manly. They didn't know that they lost Sean Kepi early due to a head knock when he ended up in Disneyland. But here at the same time, I think, who did they lose in the first half, Melbourne? Was it the Cheese and Christian Welch?
Yes, very much so. They did lose Welch and Smith.
So that didn't help at all, not one bit. But then within 2 minutes, Melbourne defensively left their shot. So what does Cleary do? He decides, you know what, lads? I'm going to do something a little bit different for you to defend. And I'm just going to chip it over the top all the way out to the right wing. And my mate Critter, he's going to be right there. He's going to catch the ball. He's going to plan it down and score the opening try in 2 minutes.
But should have that try been allowed?
Well, he wasn't offside, was he?
There's some keen-eyed Melbourne supporters have.
Is your source reputable on this one?
Maybe. No, but I have watched the game or the highlights since then, and I can see it. They have stopped the moment before Crichton put the ball down with the front of his boots on the touch in goal line on the sideline.
So you're thinking that try shouldn't have been awarded?
No, and apparently behind the scenes, the bunker's still supposed to review all the tries, even though it didn't get referred to. Also, they clearly missed that one.
Interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting on that front. But this was what we expected from the South Manly prelim and final. We were probably expecting all out attack here, and this was the defense we were after.
Yeah. And I thought Penrith were going to struggle, especially after the physical game against Parramatta. I thought they were going to be gone.
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking there is literally no way the Panthers could pick themselves up after their efforts against both the Rabbitohs and the Eels in consecutive weeks. You'd have to think, God, they got how much more steam do they have left?
Yo, that's the question heading into this week's grand final. How much do they have left? Or are they all been worn out from playing the 3 games heading into the grand final?
And I think this point has to be made. 9 out of the last 10 premiers have been decided. Of course, everyone knows this. Most teams enjoy the most success when you finish in the top 4. But the other key thing is you look at 9 of the last 10 premiers, they did it by winning their qualifying final. Look it up. Only the Cowboys are the exception that they lost to the Broncos in the first week, then belted the Sharks, down the Storm in Melbourne, which is a very interesting feat in of itself.
Yes.
And then, of course, the fairy tale set up with the Cowboys claim their first premiership win in 20 years and their first grand final appearance in 10. But that's the big thing. The Cowboys were lucky that they were able to pull off that fight back, and the rules around extra time in the grand final were different. This time, if it's locked up at, say, X all again, and either Cleary or Taff or Reynolds misses the conversion, extra time. No go Alton point tap out here.
No, there's runs on until basically whoever scores next.
But that's the same thing. And it's the same story with the Bulldogs in 2014 and the Cowboys again in 2017. It's that extra 80 minutes you have to do on your way to the grand final. That's what cost them in the end. And North Queensland were done in their last grand final appearance. They were done in the first half. Canterbury, it was the last 20 minutes after being locked up at 6-all.
Yeah.
But that's my point. And of course, at the right edge of the Storm, defensively cripple again. And it's a broken record at this point. But it is. Melbourne cannot defend as effective on their right edge as they have on the left.
No.
Look at how many tries as they scored. Well, I mean, not against South Sydney because, I mean, literally held them the North at one point. But Parramatta broke them up. Manly, actually, no, Manly only scored a couple of tries against them as well. But the same thing applies. If you want to attack Melbourne, go left, break them down on the right-hand side. That's what all they've done.
Yeah. But it also took Melbourne 62 minutes.
1 hour. 1 hour before they actually set up Ryan Pappenhausen.
How often do you see that?
Again, it's the 15 errors they made because they made errors in good try-scoring opportunities. There was the lead up on that right-hand shift, getting ready for George Jennings, and then it was bombed. Then they tried setting up for the box, and the ball went behind them. So Melbourne had their opportunities, but they failed to execute on those plays.
Yeah. Well, would you say it's because they were too worried about the scoreboard getting late into the game and still hadn't scored?
I don't think we've ever seen the Melbourne Storm face scoreboard pressure like this.
No.
I don't think at all. But the one gripe I do have is. And I think some comments have been made, both online and in the media. Paul Kent and Paul Gallen, both representing Channel 9 and Fox Sports, respectively, other way around, of course. But they have both said they blamed that loss on the absence of Cameron Smith.
I mean,
I got to sit back and no, I'm sorry, but how can you put that down to one man who was, well, I mean, arguably the Melbourne Storm's greatest, but you cannot put Melbourne's error-ridden performance on the fact that they did not have Cameron Smith. I'm sorry, you just can't.
no, you can't. But Melbourne wouldn't have made it to week 3 of the grand final if they didn't win the qualifying match, which they also did without Cameron Smith. So why put the finger on
Exactly.
this game when they won the qualifying final, which is just in the fourth
I
match?
know some of us have been death riding Melbourne. Of course we've been death riding Melbourne. I've death ridden Melbourne a couple of times in the last 2 years, only to have it blown up back in my face. I did. This year I thought, oh yeah, I'm just not going to bother just saying this is the year the Melbourne Storm fall apart, because it's not. And I had them finishing fourth, end up finishing first, and almost set up my pure grand final prediction at the start of the year. But apparently Penrith had other ideas.
Yeah. And Penrith have gone through this whole finals series without even resting a single player as well.
Again, flat side or fresh? Which would you rather?
Fresh. But Melbourne were fresh and they still managed to lose.
Yeah, that has happened. It's happened to other teams that got the rest in the first week of the finals as well. I'll just ask all the sides that had to face North Queensland in 2017.
Yeah.
The Roosters, for a start.
Well, yeah. So really a flat side could potentially maybe be the better off this year, but we just don't know.
We don't know. It will honestly come down to the performance on grand final day. Now, speaking of that, there was only 2 prelim finals we had to cover, so we jumped straight into the big one, the NRL Telstra Premiership Grand Final, scheduled for the 3rd of October at some Court Stadium, maybe.
Well,
I mean, look, we don't know.
At the moment, it is with 75%.
We don't
capacity.
know. We're not going to talk about the factors behind what's going on in Queensland at the moment. I think if you want to do that, go find someone who's more astute with politics or is astute with politics, but doesn't want to talk about it on a rugby league platform, i.e. us.
Yes.
Now, on with that. At the moment, as far as we are aware, it's still at Suncorp and 75% capacity as of today. A bit of a rip-off, but hey, what do you know? So your grand final side, starting off with the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Blake Taft will start at fullback. Your wingers, Alex Johnston and Jackson Paulo. The centres, Dane Gagai and Campbell Graham. In the halves, Dally M, 5/8 Player of the Year, Cody Walker, and the captain in his last game for the Rabbitohs before joining the Brisbane Broncos, Adam Reynolds. In the forwards, Cam Murray, Kian Kuala-Matangi and Jaden Sewer. Up front, the underrated Mark Nichols, Damien Cook and Junior Totola. And off the bench, the evergreen Benji Marshall, Jacob Host, the heart and soul of the forward pack, Tom Burgess and Jai Arrow, and their coach, the master coach himself, Mr. Wayne Bennett.
For the Panthers, which are classified as the home side, you got Dylan Edwards at fullback, but with a question mark. With your winners, you got Crichton and Toto. In the centres, you got Paul Momorowski and Matt Burton. In the halves, Jerome Luai and Nathan Cleary as the Daily M halfback of the year, and also their captain. In the
Forwards.
Back right, yeah, forwards. You got Isaiah Yeo, Viliami Kikau, and Kurt Cable. And up front, you got Moses Leota, Appy Coruscant, James Fisher Harris, who's also Daly M Prop of the Year. And on the bench, Tyrone May, Scott Sorensen, Spencer Lenu, and Liam Martin, coached by Nathan Cleary's son, Ivan.
Son?
Sorry, father.
Wow.
Sorry.
First time you hear a slow clap sound effect, ladies and gentlemen, and I can tell you it is 100% natural right here.
Yes, it is natural.
Well, that's going to be the big thing for South, because with Spencer Lenyu's inclusion, it has come at the cost of Tavita Pangai Jr., who has been ruled out with a calf injury, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. And I think he ruled himself out.
Team
from what I've heard.
Right there. And then, of course, the question marks. I mean, first, Moses Leota has a question mark over him, if I'm not mistaken from memory, as does Dylan Edwards, which could force a reshuffle for the Panthers.
And if that reshuffle occurs, Steve Crichton will more than likely go to fullback with, I'd say, Brent Naden or Charlie Staines coming in on the wing.
It could happen. It could happen. Or they might move Staines the fullback and then try and do a little bit of shuffling here and there.
Maybe. We just have to wait and see if Edwards and Leota are cleared on game day.
I think it wasn't
prior.
Fisher Harris also underneath a injury cloud as well.
I don't think so.
No.
I could be wrong, but I don't believe he is.
Yeah, once again, we're demonstrating our preparedness for all this. No, yeah, he is under a bit of a concern at the moment with his knee. Of course, Brian To'o, I think he'll be all right to play after coming back from that ankle injury. Of course, Nathan Cleary with his shoulder. And on the south side, Adam Reynolds' groin, which could hamper his goal-kicking abilities.
Well, he might even not kick at all. We just had to wait and see. Because back in the Manly games, Reynolds didn't do much goal. He didn't do any goal kicking, and he didn't kick much in the field of play either until late on. So
when he was needed the most.
Yeah, basically.
Well, this is Ivan Cleary's third grand final now, and his first time he's been in back-to-back grand finals. Coached more than 300 games, yet to win one. Unfortunately, joining a bit of a sad list of coaches who have coached more than 250 games without a premiership win. I think Brian Smith comes to mind. He's played in multiple grand finals for various clubs, Parramatta and the Roosters included. What happens if Cleary doesn't manage to win this one?
I honestly do not know. He will still stay as coach, don't get me wrong.
But what does that say about the Panthers if they don't win?
Well, they might not be able, they still can't live up and perform in high pressure, big matches, such as this one.
Well, that's sort of the curiosity of the matter, isn't it? Because between 2016 and between the window of 2016 to 2018, when everyone was talking Nathan Cleary and the Panthers up, as most people probably think rightly so, especially when James Maloney jumped on.
Yes.
What was it? Semi-final loss to Canberra in 2016, semi-final loss to the Broncos, where they only managed to score one try all up. Mind you, the final score was only 13-6, so whatever. And then to the Sharks, when they were in the best position to win it, coming back from 18-0 down to lock the scores up at 20-all, and unable to ice a match-leveling field goal to try and force the semi-final against the Sharks into extra time.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the grand final last year, where Melbourne blow them off the park in the first half, stage of a miraculous comeback, but can't finish it off in the dying seconds.
True. It because...
No, go on.
Is it because... I know Penrith have won multiple games this season, but is it because they went too hard, too early? And because some of those wins back in the year weren't easy wins, they were a bit scrappy wins.
Well, I think with the first 3 years Penrith started making the finals, I think many could attribute that to youth and inexperience. I don't think there would have been any excuses with the grand final. I mean, they were minor premiers. They were far and away the best side of 2020. And then the Melbourne Storm said, oh, you might be great, but we're the greatest.
Exactly.
Or might be good, but we're the greats.
Yeah.
Now, here we are lining up in a similar situation with South Sydney. Wayne Bennett, is in his 10th grand final, which is unbelievable achievement in itself. He's only been coaching for, I believe they said, 35 years as a head coach with the Raiders, the Broncos, the Dragons, the Knights, and the Rabbitohs. He is literally the Brisbane Broncos through and through. 6 of their 6 premiership wins, all of them for the Brisbane Broncos. 1 premiership for St. George Illawarra, and has only been beaten in a grand final twice. 1987 with the Raiders in his first year of coaching, and not a solo, it was a co-coaching role. And then in 2015, again, losing to the Cowboys and the Broncos' first loss in a grand final.
Yes.
Very daunting record right there. And of course, many people are thinking, the Rabbitohs surely can't win this. They have conceded 50 points twice in the season.
And won against their opponent.
And yet, they're still here. They are right here on this day for this big dance. Benji Marshall, who knows what's happening with Benji? 1 minute we're saying he might retire. The next minute he's saying, oh yeah, no, cuz I could actually play on next year.
I hope he plays on next year.
But it would be, but I would warn against it as well, mainly for the fact Jonathan Thurston and what happened to Thurston in 2018 in his final year.
Exactly.
It was not exactly the best way to send Thurston off.
No.
1 year too long. That's what it was. So that's what Benji has to confront. Does he want to end up like JT? Had a standout career, but most probably every time you hear him, it's just he played for 1 year too long, and then that's what defined his final year.
Yeah.
Not the glory, not the fact that he guided his club around the park one last time. It would just be known for the fact the Cowboys were run down, they were broken, and they were the biggest disappointments of 2018, as many had them predicted in the top 4.
Yes. Benji, if he decides to retire come the season's end, he could go out as a grand final winner 16 or 15 years
16.
late, 16 years since his last grand final win with West Tigers in 2005.
Unbelievable. Absolutely. In Wayne Bennett's case, history is on the line for him because not only could he become the first coach in Australian Rugby League history to win 3 premierships with 3 different clubs, deliver South Sydney a record 22nd premiership, it once again reinforcing the image of the pride of the league, but he could shatter the narrative of the 50-point myth that has stood for 113 years of Australian Rugby League. Imagine that.
Not only once, but twice. Twice.
He would be remembered in the record books and the Book of Feuds. And
basically rewriting everything.
If he does achieve this, I mean, in the debate of greatest coach of all time, because we know everyone's going to be saying Craig Bellamy, but if Wayne wins this grand final, I think there will be no argument. No. Wayne Bennett will come back and will reinforce the fact that he will be the greatest coach of all time. Yeah. In my view. I don't think not everyone would agree with me on that, but that's the way I think I see it going.
I completely 100% agree with you that he will basically, if he wins this grand final, rewrite the records that will stand for decades to come.
30 years from now, we will still probably be talking about Wayne Bennett. Oh no, the game might change in 30 years. We don't know.
No, we honestly do not know.
No one would ever forget the time Wayne Bennett was head coach of South Sydney.
No.
Oh, I mean, they probably might want to forget a 2 consecutive preliminary finals burst where they didn't win. But that's sort of the way it goes. Now, the case for either side, because this is really close. We have to assume that the Panthers won't fall for Wayne's tricks again in the lead up to their qualifying final,
which has already started again this week.
Yeah, but the trainer. It always starts with the trainer, but does it end with the trainer?
Well, I don't know. But I did watch this NRL 360 and Paul Kent and a can't remember who it was.
Which night? Monday or Tuesday?
When Brent Reid was on, I think that was Tuesday night.
If it was Tuesday, more than likely Paul Crawley from the Daily Telegraph would have also been there, but it would have also been Players' Night.
No, it wasn't that night. It must be Monday night then.
Then it would have been James Hooper and Buzz Rothfield on as well.
No, because Brent Reid was there, so it must have been Wednesday night.
With the legends Danny Vidiris and Billy Moore.
I don't know. Anyway, Brent Reid was at the desk at the time. Paul Kent said this. The rules say the trainer per side is allowed on the field 3 times per half. They're saying that the Penrith coach was out on the field 13 times across the whole game, which you can't do. 3 times per half, that's equals to 6. This one trainer was out there 13 times during the match. That's rule breaking right there. But the fine that they got last time was pretty much a slap across the wrist. So what's going to happen this time if something comes out of it?
Yes, I think it'd be mired in controversy. Nothing sure about that.
Yeah.
But if it leads to changes in the off-season for the rules with trainers, well, let's see what Andrew Abdo and Peter Volandis have to say on that matter.
And he also says that if you just fine the 25K like they did last time, teams are going to keep doing it. But if you slap them with, say, competition point deduction or a reduction in salary cap, that might stop them. But 25K is a slap across the wrist, and that's coming from Paul Kent.
Yeah, I would have to agree with them on that, especially, even we'll talk a little bit later if we have enough time. Look, so we've got to see what the Panthers do to try and unsettle the Bunnies, because I think like the qualifying final, this will be won in the forwards. And if the Rabbitohs can play that same style of defense, it'll be a question of if they can back it up to that same standard they laid down back in the first week of September. That would be the question for me.
Yeah.
As for the Rabbitohs, it all hinges on how well Adam Reynolds can play, given and that he is still suffering that groin complaint, if he is suffering the groin at all.
Exactly. Yeah, and see if Penrith are full strength or not. If Edwards does get ruled out, and if Leota does get ruled out as well, and James Fisher-Harris that back too, if they all get ruled out, there could be changes which will maybe unsettle the side.
And I think for Penrith, I think they'll also lose that aggression that Pangai Jr. brought off the bench. It was only a short stint, only a couple of weeks. But Pangai brought that aggression off the bench, just limited role, try and, really amp up the side without trying to give away stupid penalties. I think this is a big loss for Penrith if in this regard. And if some of their injury concerns don't fall their way, I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. And it's also, I don't know when, and just a quick thing, second play third in the grand final. When's the last time you didn't see first in the grand final?
2019.
Well, there you go. It's only been a couple of years, but still.
Yes, it definitely has been off and on for minor premiers that either don't do well, because we've got to remember the Roosters were minor premiers 3 years running and they only made one grand final out of it.
That is true.
But never mind that. That is ancient history. It's now time to make the ultimate decision for the NRL, at least. Who will be the 2021 premiers in our minds?
I've been saying this all week long, and it's going to come as a shock to some people. Rabbitohs by 20 plus.
Oh, okay.
That's
So you think
what I've been saying. As soon as the full-time siren went for the Panthers-Melbourne game, I said Rabbitohs 20 plus to win. And I've stuck with that all week long, and I'm going to stick with it right up until the full-time siren of the grand final, when hopefully they are premiers.
All right. Well, I think Penrith will try and throw everything they can to try and get this premiership, to try and prove that they're not chokers or the new O'Brien Smith coach side. Excuse me. But at the same time, I've seen this story. Not that I've seen the story before, but I have read this story before about this real gun side, key players in an origin side, almost minor premiers, or were minor premiers, is full of these young, exciting superstars. Then came up this guy, just this one guy. He's been around a while. He was very successful, got a lot of these experienced heads, players playing with a new lease of life in a different position and what have you, or just coming together at the right time when the critics said they can't make it. And then they went up against this young team of superstars and they upset the history books for them. That was Wayne Bennett back in 2006 against the Melbourne Storm as the Broncos ran out 15-8 winners. I'm going to say, for my 2001 Telstra Premiership Premiers.
2001?
21. And
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
My pick for the 2021 NRL Telstra Premiers, the weight of experience and of the coach and the influence on the side itself playing for one another, I will say it is the South Sydney Rabbitohs, 1-12, and I would not be surprised if Adam Reynolds actually had his groin right, kicks the match-winning field goal, and is crowned Clive Churchill medalist.
Okay. Do you reckon it'll go into extra time?
No, I don't think it will. I think
okay.
And with 10 seconds to go, Reynolds kicks the winning field goal, and with that, Clive Churchill in his final game for the Bunnies.
Fair enough.
After an absolute first-class kicking game. So there you go. That's our picks for the NRL Premiers. Now, from one side of the world to the other side of the world, the Betfred Super League playoffs, and we start off with the Wigan Warriors getting nilled at home by the Leeds Rhinos. Get ready for the shock scoreline, 8-0.
Anticlimax right there.
Well, the first 40 minutes was an anticlimax.
Well, yeah, really.
0-0. How much more anticlimactic can you get from that?
Well, exactly. You can't. Unless going to minus, but we can't do that in rugby league.
No, we can't. Yeah, absolutely can't.
But 8-0, that's all you have to win it by. It's a final, so ladder positioning does not matter whatsoever coming into this match. It's all to play for, and Wigan have gone out straight up. Yeah,
absolutely unbelievable. I mean, both sides were trading sets with each other. The first 40 minutes was a clear example of that. But I didn't know who was going to break first. And as it turns out, all Leeds needed was a misfield bomb on Wigan's right edge for Ash Handley to become the first and only try scorer of the match. Crazy. The only try scorer.
Yeah, it was a very, very, well, up until that point, a very close game indeed. And it was like, I agree with you. Who was going to break first? Like, who was going to score the first try? Who was going to go on with it and all that? And Hanley, for the Rhinos, proved to be the first one to break the duck.
Well, right place at the right time. I tell you what, down that at left edge of the Leeds Rhinos. And the fact they did it without Luke Gale, I thought Gale's influence and experience would have been a very telling factor for Leeds, but once again, Cruz Leeming stood to task as a temporary scrum half, and Wigan really went AWOL on attack. You would have thought, what you got? John Bateman, devastating second rower, who I believe would have made the difference for the Wigan Warriors this year.
Yep.
Jackson Hastings, former man of steel. Jake Bibby has been one of Wigan's best try-scoring machines all year. And then you got a nice crop of young forwards like Ollie Partington and Morgan Smithies, with an experienced head at the back like Hardacre, who could really light up the field, And Wigan proved to be absolutely disappointing.
Exactly. We've got the inconsistent Wigan side that we've been getting in various stages throughout the season. And I did say we'll probably get the inconsistent Wigan side this against Leeds, and
well, you're definitely right
there
about
you
that.
go.
We got inconsistent Wigan that was shut out defensively by the Leeds Rhinos.
Yeah. Well, it was still a narrow, you could say a narrow win for Leeds, because 8 points to nil. But Leeds could have gone on with it if it wasn't such a, what you could say, tense or
tense. I would use the word tense.
Yeah. It could have been a lot bigger blowout. It could have been going into Golden Point or whatever, but Leeds got that try from Hanley with Reece Martin converting and then a penalty for a legal strip, and Martin got the penalty goal. So that's how they got 8 points and held Wigan to nil.
At home again, which is rather embarrassing if you think about it from a Wigan Warriors standpoint.
Well, yes.
And with that, it brings the end to Adrian Lamb's time at the DW Stadium. It also spells the end of Oliver Gildart and Jackson Hastings' career at the Wigan Warriors, both joining the West Tigers in the off-season, which is only about less than 2 months away, really. It's almost October, so you'd have to say 1 month as of tomorrow.
Practically, yes.
The big question is now, where do the Wigan Warriors go from here after losing the grand final in spectacular circumstances last year, a poor 2021 campaign, and now Adrian Lamb's left?
Yeah, they're not.
All the speculation about Sean Wayne as well. We know he's coming back as potentially a director of rugby, but is he going to come back and be the head coach once more?
I reckon he will be. Personally, I'm not saying that Adrian Lamb's done a terrible job. He has done.
No, of course not. I mean, second in 2019, league leaders in 2020, and the grand final.
Yeah.
Fourth this year, a bit of a lower standard, but in all 3 seasons he was there, Wigan played playoffs football. Well, I mean, pre-preliminary final loss to Salford 2019, not good, but still good effort for finishing second. They were league leaders in 2020, made it to the grand final, if not for an unfortunate, that great moment. I think the greatest moment in a grand final in the last 5 years, either side of the world.
Yes.
Oh, that wonderful Jack Wellesby try. And then the wheels just started falling off this year, dropped down to 4th when everyone thought they would have been up there with St. Helens. And this is how they bow out. Rather unfortunate, but I wouldn't call this time a failure, so to speak. But
no, but Wigan obviously no Adrian Lamb, so they've got no coaching into next season at the moment. And you've already mentioned there was Oliver Gildart to the West Tigers and also Jackson Hastings to the West Tigers. So they really need to try and fill those 3 positions extremely well to try and bounce back and climb up the ladder to be amongst like Catlin, St. Helens, and that next season. Or if not, they'll be going back down the ladder again.
Well, we'll have to wait and see what happens in the next 3 months for the end of this year. Meanwhile, on the other side of the M62, the Warrington Wolves, unfortunately, bowing out in straight sets again for a 3rd year running in the playoffs. This time going down to Hull KR, 19 points to nil.
This was a very, very big surprise indeed.
Oh, this was a boil over. I will say it. This was a boil over.
Finals and playoffs can produce the unpredictable. And certainly that's what happened in this match. Warrington, they had George Williams, they've had Stefan Ratcho, Gareth Willett, they've had one of the best sides this season, and they fell out of the playoffs.
It was, if I was a Warrington supporter, I would actually be embarrassed by what was fielded there. I honestly would.
I totally agree. I would be.
I believed George Williams would have been, and I actually said that I had Warrington as my early 2022 Super League champion pick. I don't know if I can say that anymore, or if I've pulled the trigger just yet, or I might need to rethink that. But what was that?
I don't know. Whole KR from finishing on the verge of the top 6.
Well, they were just snuck into the top 6 after Warrington won at Castleford. And then that result against Leeds meant nothing. But the bounce back, that was remarkable.
Yeah. I just don't know what happened. Whole KR obviously definitely lived up to the occasion, which Warrington usually do themselves. But they did not seem to do it, and they had the team to do it as well, which is also more confusing of why they did not score a single try and point, and let alone letting 19 points in against the 6th place side.
3 tries. I find it absolutely remarkable that you had very effective players. You had Toby King, you had George Williams, Daryl Clark. Daryl Clark was back in the side, and Danny Walker. So you had both your first choice dummy he has, but errors killed them. Jake Mamo, 5 errors on his own accord. Chris Hill made about 3. George Williams, 2 errors of his own. But the failure to click in attack, and they weren't getting any good ball at all. They were getting ball turned over in their own end. And the Robins just capitalized on all of that.
They certainly did. And it's just basically, like you said, the errors that Warrington made is what cost them the match.
And errors did cost them. And the expectations as well, because remember, since the 2018 grand final, where they lost to Wigan, bowed out in the first week of the playoffs to Castleford, running 4th after being second for half of the season and only behind St. Helens, 3rd in 2020, lost to Hull FC badly, and now nilled by Hull KR a year later from 3rd on the table.
Against the other Hull side. So, yeah.
What? I mean, this isn't Steve Price's problem anymore, because that loss now means he will be on his way back to the NRL as assistant coach to the Sharks. That's Craig Fitzgibbon. So now this is going to be Darryl Powell's problem to solve. But again, he's walking into a fine situation, minus Chris Hill and minus Tom Lynham. And because they'll both be departing, Tom Lynham to link up with Wakefield Trinity and Chris Hill signing on with the Huddersfield Giants.
Yeah.
But he's still walking into a good position with a very healthy side. If he gives the right players the right opportunities, who knows? Maybe I was right to say Warrington are my only 2022 champions pick.
Well, only time will tell in that case. But Warrington will be figuring out where the hell did it go wrong.
Yeah, I would be wondering the same thing.
I'd say it'll come down to the errors that happened.
Exactly. I would say errors. And Jordan Abdul, he's been in and out of the side. He is a Man of Steel contender alongside, I believe, Johnny Lomax, Jake Connor. I'm trying to figure the other 2. I can name 3 off the top of my head. Abdul, Connor, Lomax, but I'm trying to figure the other 2.
I'm just trying to find that myself. Good preparation work as always.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Just give me a sec. But yeah, Abdul, he was in it. He was good.
1 try, only ran for 24 meters, but it's different. 3 tackle breaks, 3 from 5 goals converted, and 1 drop goal.
Yeah, that was certainly the case there. Here we go. The nominees, as you've already mentioned, the 3 of Lomax, Connor, Abdul. We've also got Gareth Widdop.
Of course, of the Warrington Wolves.
And Sam Tompkins.
Of the Catalan Dragons. Yes, of course. Look, I mean, Hull KR, I mean, they deserve the win. They played well. They were very strong defensively. And if you're strong defensively, you win more games than you do end up losing there. So, I mean, all credits to Tony Smith, and we'll talk more about it when we come up to the semi-final just a little bit later on. But we've also got two challenge. And I was going to say championship matches, playoffs to cover as well. First result, the Batley Bulldogs down in the Bradford Bulls 23 points to 10. And the Halifax Panthers down in Whitehaven 24-20. Just a quick summary on the Batley Bulldogs, because I only saw 40 minutes before watching the highlights back. They talked about the slope at the Fox's Biscuit Stadium. And then if you're running downhill, you got all the momentum. With Batley, that was exactly the case. Racing out to a 16-0 lead over the Bulls.
Yeah. The Bulldogs were in complete control of that match from start to finish, I believe.
They were. And I didn't notice it from watching it from the Sky Sports broadcast positions, but watching it from the Batley Bulldogs perspective on their YouTube channel, watching the highlights, they can show you that slope big time.
Exactly.
That slope is pronounced on their ground. And you think, why would you not build a stadium on uneven ground? Well, ask them. They were here long before any other rugby league club or fan, so you might as well inquire about that.
No.
But it was complete and utter. The defense of Bradford, I don't know where that was. They had opportunities, sure, but with a Haas pairing of Danny Brough, former Man of Steel, and Jordan Lilly, who orchestrated Bradford's famous Challenge Cup win over Leeds only 2 years ago, downing them 24-22 at Odsal, you would have thought, and a whole host of other players that have featured in Super League in the past. Elliot Keir apparently got a run for Bradford at fullback on loan from Salford, no doubt. But at the end of the day, Batley got off to a fast start and they were able to hang on.
They certainly did. But like I said, the Bulldogs, they were in complete control, and the Bulls, well, I reckon they could have performed a little bit better considering the season.
Well, they took advantage of the slope in the second half. Because they ran it, thanks to Rhys Evans, down Bradford's right edge. They ran in 2 tries of their own, 16-10, make it competitive. But then there's bittersweet irony. Elliot Hall, the interchange player for Batley, works for the Bradford Bulls in his day job in their media department, going to play at Odsal next year, scores the game-defining try. And it was absolutely magnificent to watch that try.
It certainly was to see that.
And of course, off the back of scrum half Tom Gilmore, 1 try, 5 from 5 goals converted, 1 drop goal to seal the deal for the Batley Bulldogs. Been floating in and out of the top bracket of the championship sides for the qualifiers and for £1 million game qualification. So well done to them. As for Bradford, I think for Bradford, I would say, despite that disappointment that they didn't go on to a semi-finals berth, considering the fact that they were only in voluntary administration a couple of years ago, I would say, this is actually better than where we once were.
A very solid effort indeed there, from what you said, being in voluntary administration a couple of years ago, to come back and make it into the elimination finals. It's a good, solid recovery from a couple of years ago, you could say.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Now, Halifax Panthers down in Whitehaven, 24-20. The Whitehaven story as well. They were relegated to as low as League One a couple of years back.
Wow.
And 3 years on, I believe about 3 years on, they're back, finished 6th, knocking out London on their last chance to make it Super League before transitioning to a part-time club. But they were gone in the first half. 22-6, Halifax, off the back of likes of Scott Griggs and a couple of other former Super League players, well, notably Greg Worthington, who's been floating in and out of Toronto and other clubs as well. But the Whitehaven left edge defensively did not stand up well early, with Matt Garside, the second rower, bagging a double all for Halifax right there. And Scott Griggs coming up with a couple of good line breaks and a chip and chase here and there.
Most certainly. And I've got to say, I thought Halifax were going to press on with it, but Whitehaven came back. And narrowly
they
lost.
did. Halifax almost shot themselves in the foot with the second half complacency and with Whitehaven gaining the ascendancy.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, defence wins you matches, and Halifax were able to hang on for the rest of that.
Yeah, they certainly did. I'm going to have to say, Halifax home ground, the Shea Stadium, it's a bloody rip of a little stadium, I reckon.
You think so?
From what I saw, you got like a very old-ish scoreboard where you had to manually change the scores, which you hardly see that anymore. You got like a tin roof on the grandstand. You could hear the crowd very well. I know it wasn't a very massive crowd, but yeah, it was.
Well, championship match. Remember, it's not necessarily Super League.
Yeah, I know, but still, for a little ground, it was good. And then you had like bushland, like you could see, like literally right next to the grandstands on the far side, on the main grandstand. It was awesome. A little ground that I like.
Yes, you're right. I think there is charm in smaller grounds you don't see every day that probably wouldn't be matching Super League or even NRL standards. But it's nice. It's a breath of fresh air to see them when the Sky Sports cameras are pointing at them.
Yeah, it's like it's more suburban in a way. Suburban in a way, but not in another, if you know what I mean. Like from what I could see, there was more bushland around than like what you could see of housing. So it's kind of more rural kind of suburban-ish.
Working class.
Kind of yeah, that one. But it's very nice.
The game was founded for the working class. That's what it was, is a rebellion against those bloody elitist unionists.
Well, there you go. It's a nice little ground. I like that one.
Yes, indeed. Now, it's been a bit of a drag, but we're here at semi-final action for both the Betfred Super League and Championship. But we start off in the south of France, the Catalan Dragons playing host to Hull KR in the first semi-final. This game for Catalan will be so important because I have been told, or I have read, I shouldn't have said told, but I will say, the French Prime Minister a local man, but he will be there attending this match, which is probably the biggest indication of where they are sitting in terms of France's national sporting conversation.
Yes.
I mean, many will be talking about, Lionel Messi with Paris Saint-Germain and doing well in the Champions League. Well, the French Prime Minister is coming to a rugby league semi-final, which is big for French rugby league since probably its inception back in the 1930s.
Yeah. It was good to see that, like you said, Prime Minister coming out to have a watch, which is bloody awesome, I believe.
And the story of both Catalan and Hull KR, they're both intertwined because they were both in the qualifiers in 2017, alongside the Warrington Wolves and the Widnes Vikings. Both are the Lee Centurions. And hang on. Warrington, Lee. Well, no, Lee were in the story as well, but they were already in Super League. Hull KR were in the Championship that year. But both their stories are intertwined because they were all five. Both of these clubs joined Warrington, Widnes, Lee, and a couple of other championship clubs in the qualifiers, London included. Halifax, I believe, was there as well. And maybe, I don't know, Featherstone was there as well. All of them were there at the semi-final, in the qualifiers, and again, the Super League. Hull KR earned automatic qualification by finishing in the top three, and the Catalan Dragons won the £1 million game to survive.
Yes.
Fast forward 4 years. The first place Catalan Dragons against the sixth place Hull KR. One of them is going to be a shot away from playing the grand final at Old Trafford. What a remarkable story that is.
It would be a very remarkable story indeed. This game could also be very concerning for Catalans. If you look at
due to their recent results, yes.
Catalans they lost the last two of the regular season matches. while Hull KR managed to upset Warrington to eliminate them in the week 1 of the playoffs.
And
So
again, previous meetings between both the Catalan Dragons and Hull KR, round 1 at the start of the year. It's a very long time ago talking round 1.
Yes.
But Catalan, they were pushed 29-28. They ended up winning in that game thanks to a James Maloney field goal. Then there was a couple of other results. I believe Hull KR came down to the south of France, 32-30 win at the Stade Gilbert Brutus before returning the favour at the Hull College Craven Park, 23 points to 16.
Yeah, see, very close match indeed right there.
They've been thrillers, absolute thrillers between the two sides. And now the French Prime Minister is going to be the second in command in all of France, is going to be there watching you, hoping you get to the grand final. A lot of pressure.
Very much indeed. I've got a theory. Catalans, they could have won those last 2 games of the season. I reckon they might have not purposely, purposely lost those 2 games, have a week off, and be a bit more fresher coming into this match, knowing that it's a very critical match and only 80 minutes away.
And they are virtually full strength. From the team news, they are full strength, and we will give you our lineup predictions when we are done here. Yeah. Hull KR, they get Ryan Hall back. That is very good news. They did well without him.
Yes.
But against the best attack in the league, that's my thing. And James Maloney, who thrives off this environment of playoffs.
Yeah. He's a big game player, James Maloney. We've seen it over here in the NRL and over in the Super League as well. He has played and stood up when the occasion was massive, you could say.
Indeed. So the first, I think you got to look at Catalan's right edge attack with Maloney, Mike McMeekin, Dean Vare, and Tom Davies. He's all stacked out on that right edge. Of course, Mickey McIlaurin back through the middle, and Benjamin Garcia, the captain, also back as well. So Sam Tompkins, for me, would be their only concern. But other than that, I think this fourth meeting will be very different to the previous 3. I think in front of a very, very passionate home crowd, I think the Catalan Dragons will run away with this 13 plus.
I honestly do not know. Like I said, based on the form of Catalans over the last 2 regular season matches they'd lost, and then with Hull KR somehow beating and knocking out Warrington, I'm still going to say Catalans to win, but in a 1-12 margin, Hull KR will absolutely give it to them.
All right, so we both agree the Catalan Dragons are the first team through to the grand final. But who will Catalan potentially face? The second semi-final, the reigning champion St. Helens play host to the Leeds Rhinos. There's no changes for Leeds. There was suggestion that fullback Jack Walker could be potentially fit for the semi-final clash. Alas, he has not been named in Richard Agar's 21-man squad. St. Helens, meanwhile, virtually as full strength as you can get, despite the loss of Theo Farge.
Well, that's disappointing to hear this late on in the season and a critical match indeed. Leeds could potentially also cause an upset in this match. Potentially, I say.
The irony of this at the moment is because St. Helens and Leeds have such a very colourful rivalry dating back over several grand finals and playoff appearances, amongst other things. St. Helens are currently up for the treble of the three-peat. The last team to achieve that in the Super League era was the Leeds Rhinos. From 2007 to 2009, 3 straight 8 years, they were crowned Super League champions. And they are going up against the St. Helens side that is looking to mirror just that.
True. Well, St. Helens have got big name players back like Coop, Makinson, the guy.
9 changes.
Yeah.
9, I believe, if both Saints and Catalan, and massive changes, is reinforcements coming in.
So basically, everyone who St. Helens rested are back on deck.
Yes, exactly. And
including Ignatius Parsley, who is back from his suspension.
I think we're going to see a very fresh side coming into this. Leeds, this will be their biggest test in about 4 years, because once we're champions, then they dropped back to the qualifiers. They struggled. Old Richard Ager came in, rebuilt Leeds, got them to the elimination playoffs against the Catalan Dragons last year, but that didn't go down so well. Now here in the semi-finals, 80 minutes away from Old Trafford once again. But I don't think they can and overcome the Saints. I mean, if Catalan are the gold standard Super League, the reigning champions aren't that far behind. And I think if it gets into a forward battle, Leeds are going to lose this hands down to Alex Walmsley big time.
Yeah.
I think St. Helens run away with this 13 plus.
Yeah. Look, I know playoffs, like I said numerous times this episode, playoffs can cause upsets. And like we saw with Hull KR Warrington, there was an upset. But Leeds, I don't think they'll quite have the strength, the squad strength, and the ability to beat St. Helens, who has been one of the benchmark sides along with Catalans this season. I'm going to say St. Helens 13 plus.
Right. So we're going to predict that the Catalan Dragons will meet St. Helens in the grand final. Now, getting back on the championship action, the top two sides are in action against our winners from the first week. Toulouse Olympique will host the Batley Bulldogs at the Stade Ernest Wallon. Oh, now, if there was ever a case, because not many sides have travelled to the south of France in the championship this year, because part-timers do not travel to France because they can't.
Yeah.
Toulouse, they're looking for a 15-game winning run right here. They've won 14 straight of the games they have been able to play, both home and away, enforced, of course.
Yeah.
But dominant side all year long. And with a lot of handy players, never mind Einstein Robard, Jonathan Ford, Mark Carolina, or even an experienced head like Rene Caste leading them up in the engine room. Here, I see an ultimate class difference between the two sides. A major class difference.
Yeah, I can say that as well. Like Toulouse, they've been, like you said, 14 straight in the games they have played. They've been on top all season long. The Batley Bulldogs, they did put up a good game. Well, they had last week against the
Bulls.
The Bulls, yes. But I do not see them beating Toulouse. Toulouse are going to be absolutely way too strong.
Yeah, I agree with you. Toulouse, for me, win 13 plus.
Yes, agree. Toulouse 13 plus.
And the second semi-final for the £1 million game qualifiers takes us to Featherstone, where the Featherstone Rovers face off against the Halifax Panthers.
Now, the Halifax Whitehaven game was close. I know Halifax ran on with it in the first half, but the second half, Whitehaven came back, but not quite enough. But Featherstone, they have had experience, you could say, in the Super League before, and I don't think Halifax have. So, but you never know what's going to happen in this match.
No, I don't think you can. That first week rest could be a telling factor. I mean, we basically just said straight up Toulouse are going to belt Batley back to West Yorkshire here, and they will go on to meet the £1 million game. Featherstone and Halifax, meanwhile, this could get interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to predict this one because Featherstone have been there, done that before, and
they were in the £1 million game back in 2019 against Toronto, which is like an eternity ago now that they're in the North America Rugby League competition in their designated Canada Cup.
Yes.
But I think this one will be a lot closer. And this could be a bit more competitive as well.
It definitely will, but I feel out of these, the two, what would you say, qualifying matches?
Well, semis for the £1 million game. So
Semis,
whoever,
that one.
and in our mind, they got to get over the top of Toulouse. And at the moment, it's a French riot at the moment.
Exactly. Out of these two semis, this one, the Rovers Halifax, is going to be the best one out of nothing against Toulouse and the Bulldogs. Don't get me wrong, but the Toulouse one was easier to predict. But this one's going to be harder because it's going to be a lot more physical. It's going to be a lot more closer and unpredictable.
Between Featherstone and Halifax, I totally agree because I think they're only a couple of the full-time sides in the championship. So I think they're more than likely going to be socking at each other for 80 minutes.
They definitely will be. It'll just come down to see who's got the mentality and the physics.
Well, Halifax don't need to concede a fast start to lose ground on a fast start. If they can tighten up their defense at the back end, if Featherstone starts swinging hard at them, like World War III in the Challenge Cup of 2018,
yes,
then they are a chance. Otherwise, I think this, like the Super League Grand Final, I think the £1 million game will be decided between the top two sides. I'm going to go Featherstone to win this, 1-12.
Okay, it's like I said, it's hard to predict this one, but I'm going to say Halifax Panthers to win 1-12 in this one.
So I say Featherstone, you say Halifax.
Yes, but we both agree on Toulouse.
Oh yeah, we ultimately agree Toulouse Olympique, and I think we will find that they will be in the Betfred Super League come 2022. I think that'll be absolutely brilliant to have two French sides in Super League. And who knows, maybe Toulouse. I mean, we all know that a lot of clubs have struggled in the past, with trying to stay in Super League for more than 1 year. Maybe this will be different.
Maybe, who knows? And like we said, leading up into the 2024 World Cup in Paris, is going to be, this could be a sign of things to come. Like they're heading, both Catalans and Toulouse are both heading into the right direction at the right time, leading into the World Cup in 2024.
Oh, I agree. It would be a great reward. Now, all the wrap up from the Dally M's and the Man of Steel Bill nominations, as well as the Dream Team have been named. We'll just go over them quickly. Of course, Tom Trbojevic, Dally M fullback and Player of the Year. There was no real surprise there. Tedesco was never going to be in the running once Turbo got running.
No, especially Cleary too. Like when he missed those games with the injury, there was no way he was going to be able to hold on to that lead.
The wingers, Ruben Garrick and Brian Toto. Well, I think Toto, no surprise for anyone, considering he was practically one of the most meter-hungry wingers out there. And Ruben Garrick,
no
with
surprise
those
there,
remarkable point-scoring records that were falling in his favour, both in league and for Manly themselves.
Yep.
Centre of the Year, Justin Olam got Centre of the Year after initially being snubbed by the review board.
Which was a bit unfair because he has had a brilliant season down at Melbourne.
And Matt Burton, a little bit orthodox, but I suppose he's not going to win 5'8" for the year.
No, because he hasn't been playing 5'8". He has a little bit, but mostly this season he's been playing at centre. Yeah.
5'8" for the year actually ended up going to Cody Walker. We have to say stand up from the rest. And we actually predicted our Dally M Team of the Year. What we thought the Dally M Team of the Year was going to be. If you were paying attention over the last week, I said Cody Walker locked in for 5'8" when the Dally M Player of the Year was still up. And my idiotic self forgot that and said Jerome Luai, I predicted would get 5'8" of the year. So a little bit of egg on my face that I said one thing and then ended up writing another.
Well, you've got to change your mind, but just say you just change your mind between now and then.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to pay off. Nathan Cleary, halfback of the year. There was really no surprises.
No surprise.
Even with Reynolds and Sherry Evans in tow.
Yeah.
The props, James Fisher, Harrison, Payne, Haas of the Brisbane Broncos.
Yet again, he's been one of the best players this season for Brisbane, Payne Haas.
Take him out, the Broncos win the wooden spoon again.
Yeah.
The cheese, Brandon Smith. This could probably not age well. No
As
thoughts?
in, no, let's say Hooker of the Year would have been close, but I do reckon Smith come out on top. But then again, Harry Grant was close as well. So
No, I meant with the
yeah, I know.
the little fun time they had. Of course, the white powder might get them undone. It would have been, I thought it would have been the same story with like how Reece Walsh was treated. Ruled ineligible for Dally M Rookie of the Year, which ended up going to Sam Walker. I would have thought the cheese. I mean, those pitches were only leaked literally hours leading up into the Dally M Awards night.
That's true.
Right, so
I'd say if Reece Walsh didn't get caught up in that thing, he would have won Rookie of the Year.
for sure.
Hands down, no arguments.
Yeah, maybe Damien Cook would have got dummy half of the year if the cheat.
Or Harry Grant.
Second rows of the year, Billy Army kick out and Isaiah Papali'i buy of the year. We have said bargain buy of the year for months.
Yeah.
Outstanding he has been for the Eels, and I think I see good things for him going forward. As for Billy Army kick out, I would say a bit up and down, but he's still probably one of the best ball runners in the second row.
Yep, completely agree with that. I'm glad Isaiah Papali'i has made Team of the Year. Like you said.
Finally, Isaiah Yeo as the Dally M Lock of the Year, with Craig Bellamy being the Coach of the Year for God knows how long he's been doing that for.
Well, that's his 6th Coach of the Year award.
Blimey.
Yep, blimey indeed. And then just other ones, as we know, Dally M of the Year medal was to Tom Trbojevic.
We already said.
Yes, we already said. James Tedesco got Captain of the Year. Well deserved.
I called it.
Yeah, you said that he's been carrying the Roosters all season long, and he was well deserved.
And also, we've got the 2021 Betfred Super League Dream Team of the Year, which is the equivalent to the Team of the Year. Sam Tompkins from the Catalan Dragons is at fullback. He's out of nowhere, just stand-up performance. And it's from Tompkins as always, since moving to the south of France. The wingers, Tom Davies and Ken Seo from the Salford Red Devils. Probably a shining light for Salford, I'd have to say, in their year.
I have to say, he had an outstanding season for not being biased. Like, there were plenty of brilliant winners all year. But I'd agree, Ken Seo been a shining light for Salford in what was a terrible season.
The centres are all St. Helens pairing of Jack Wellesby and Mark Percival. Well, for Wellesby, it's actually been a little bit harder because he's sort of been filtered out, fullback, centre, a bit of standoff. So it's been real hard to say what definitive position Wellesby is, but I think the RFL have decided centre of the year, or Dream Team centre, as they like. The halves, Johnny Lomax and James Maloney picking up the scrum half of the year.
Yeah.
Title in the Dream Team.
Surprised Hastings wasn't in there because he's had a brilliant season as well. But yeah, that was a bit of a surprise there, seeing Maloney there. But Maloney's just as good.
The front rowers, one surprise and no surprise. The no surprise, of course, Alex Walmsley once again included in the Dream Team of the Year as the best front rower, not just in the Super League, but the world. Hands down, he's the best front rower in the world.
Yeah.
And it was only unfortunate that the Bulldogs didn't sign him up as well as we did Luke Thompson.
Yeah.
But Sam Cassiano, I'd have to say the actual surprise here.
Yeah, that is a massive surprise there. I mean, there were easily a lot of contenders for this one, but...
Mikolaj Oledzki. I would have thought Mikolaj Oledzki would have been close. I would probably think maybe Rob Mulhern, perhaps, or...
Maybe.
Perhaps David Fafita would have gotten close.
Yeah.
But then again, Wakefield did play a pretty bad year, so...
Well, so did Salford, but...
Cruz Leading selected at dummy half, despite spending most of the year in its scrum half in the absence of Luke Gale, but still a remarkable achievement for Cruz.
He's had a good season. Like, he kicked a couple of drop goals and been in the halves, out of position. He's had a brilliant season.
Now, the second rowers of the year, Liam Farrell gets selected once again, and Kane Linnett also picked as a Dream Team second I think they call him out at Hull College Craven Park. I think they call him the Big Red, as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
Yeah, already got cult-like status out at Hull KR. Very, very good from Canelan. And I think his transition into the second row from centre, wonderful. Absolutely. That is the honest truth.
Yeah.
And finally, Dream Team loose forward of the year goes to Morgan Knowles.
Yeah, another one that's had a brilliant season in what has been a very top St. Helens side. And in this whole Dream Team side, St. Helens has dominated.
Well, both Saints and the Catalan Dragons, 9 of the 13 players either came from Saints or they came from the Catalan Dragons.
Yeah, which
Absolutely
is really
ridiculous.
But
Domination.
It is, but in a way, there's no surprise as well.
No, there isn't.
Being a top 2 teams, there's no surprise. But there were plenty of other contenders, but also they didn't quite make the final cut.
Yeah. And finally, the Betfred Super League Man of Steel. There, it's down to the final 5 contenders. A couple of them already picked in the Dream Team. Your contenders are Johnny Lomax from St. Helens, Jake Connor of Hull FC, Jordan Abdul flying the flag for Hull KR, Sam Tompkins for the Catalan Dragons, and Gareth Widdop for the Warrington Wolves. Who gets the Man of Steel award?
Good question. There is a lot of brilliant options there to choose from, but I'm going to have
good players in their own right.
Well, yes, that is very true. Look, I'm going to have to say Sam Tompkins.
Yeah, I can live with that. I think the way
or Jordan Abdul.
I think it would be a very good year for Hull KR if they did end up in fact winning the Man of Steel and getting a berth in the grand final.
I mean, all 5 of them do deserve it. That's why they're in the top 5.
They're all worthy, but one of them is going to get picked, and I think the England captain and the Catalan Dragons stat and at fullback, if he does win, this is what he wanted off. 10 tries, 20 try assists, 66 tackle breaks, 1 drop goal, and 20 offloads, as well as 1 goal to his name as well.
Yeah, so I'm saying Sam Tompkins or Jordan Abdul, one of those 2. I can't decide which one.
Well, it honestly comes down to which team had the more standout season. And I think if Jay Connor wins it for Hull FC, then that sort of eases the pain they're suffering. Same to Gareth Widdop at Warrington. But for Lomax, Tompkins, or even Jordan Abdul, whose teams are still in the running for the grand final, it could cap off a very, very special year.
Yes.
And with that is full time from us. If you like this podcast edition, your part 1 look of the grand final weeks on both sides of the world, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell for notifications so you never miss a week of rugby league action. Hope you enjoy the grand final down under this week. And if you're in the semi-final running for a place at Old Trafford or in the £1 million game, I wish you all the luck in the world. You're going to need it.
Yeah.
Along with Mark Hendry, I am Connor Marcellus, and you have been listening to the Sideline Chat podcast. We'll see you next week for part 2 of this debrief.
See yous.